absolute force in the comic and media industry. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my incredible pleasure to introduce to you Mr. Todd McFarlane.
Well, thank you for coming out, because later in the day we're going to have Stan Lee. We're going to have a bigger arena here. We're going to have a good time with Stan, so this is our warm-up here. We had a video that we were playing up there. You guys saw some of the sketches and stuff like that. I do these little 2-minute, 3-minute things on Facebook now. I used to do live drawings. So again, it's always weird because I have a very slow style, but I got to do something in 3 minutes. But I try to get some drawing styles. If there's any sort of aspiring artists out there, take a look at some of them, or if you see some of the hookups, I'm always trying to sort of teach you how to do a little bit of anatomy and stuff like that. So let's talk about, I've only got one subject that I'm really good at, and that's, well, two. One's the weather, we can always talk about, and the other one's me, right? So I'm very fluent in me. So let me walk you through as fast as I can my career, right? Because here's the one thing that you need in any kind of career that goes any place. You're going to need a little bit of dumb luck. So I'll talk to you about when the dumb luck comes. It has to be a bit of a partner with you along the trip. So I didn't collect comic books when I was young. I doodled since I was 5. I was the perfect kid that you guys all know that at 5 years old was the best artist in the class kid. You know that guy? Where the teacher says, Jimmy, Johnny, Susan, Judy, can you come up to the board and draw something? That was always me. So I didn't really have any focus. It's just that I could draw stuff a little bit better than the other kids, to the point that I had clear recollection in kindergarten that my teacher got mad at me one time because we were drawing animals on a farm, and he came up to me and went, "Oh, Todd, it's a bit of a disappointment, because, you know, all the other children, like, the sky is blue, and you've made the whole page green, right?" And it's like, you know, because you know that drawing, right? Green, barn, blue sky. And my answer to her, I didn't know what the word was. It was called perspective in hindsight. That I just went, what? No. I'm drawing it like somebody sitting up in a tree, and I'm looking down at the barn, and so there is no sky because I'm doing basically a down shot, right? So where everybody else is doing the shot, I was doing a down shot, and that was when she went, the kids here are a little bit odder than the rest of the kids, or he's sort of thinking slightly different than the other. But the style that I had from about 5 to maybe 16 I had 20 styles. I was an obsessive doodler. So if you take a look at my science grades, I got a D in every one of them because I was always had my head down and I was always drawing in the corner. And then at 16, I don't know why, to this day I don't know why, I decide I'm going to walk into a store, convenience store for some of you older people, and I'm going to buy comic books off a spinner rack, right? And for the young people here, a spinner rack is that thing that they used to have them in, and you spin it, you go, wow, and you spin it, you go, wow. And I bought 5 comic books that day. And I was just dumbstruck. And I went, wow, this is the style I'm going to teach myself. American superhero comic books. And so I took those books, went back to that store, bought some more, became a fanatic, started collecting every single Marvel and DC comic book that you could think of. And then I'm going to teach myself how to draw. And so for a week, I would draw hands. That's all I did. For any of you guys that are aspiring, instead of trying to tackle the whole body, I just go, I'm going to draw hands. And if you start with nothing but hands, you'll be surprised from Monday to Sunday how better your hands will get. Why? Because you did about 200 of them in a week. And I guarantee you, 200 hands will look way better than your first hand. Right? So drawing, I believe, my wife disagrees, but drawing, I believe, is a job. And I can make any one of you in here a functional artist if you gave me enough of your time. The only thing that divides me and you is that I get paid to do it 10 hours a day. Right? So drawing is learning a language, like learning a language. And if you try to learn Cantonese or Japanese and you practice it 10 hours a day for 10 years, you would get really good at it. So my wife goes, "Todd, you can never make me an artist." Of course I can. Of course I can. And here's why. We've got this thing here. I don't even know how it works. How do I draw this? Is there a pen? Nobody knows? I put paper on it. Okay, never mind. Anyway, I won't do it right now. Somebody has to get me some paper. My wife, when she draws Pictionary, she's horrible. And this is most of you people, and you're horrible. And I'm going to tell you why you're horrible. Because you do not look at objects the way that an artist does and think about what makes it that object. So, when my wife draws a pig, it's round and it's got 4 legs on it and it's got a head and a couple ears. When she draws a cow, it is a round body with 4 legs on it and a round. And when she draws a cat, and when she draws a deer, and when she draws a rabbit, they all look the same. And it's wrong. Because every one of those animals, I don't give a crap. If it's the same body, every one of those animals has something that makes them what they are. Right? So, I've got a young lady here. You are going to draw an elephant. What makes an elephant an elephant? 2 things. A trunk. Wow, that can't be a paw. That can't be a paw. So when you look at an elephant with that big long thing, you confuse it with something else? No. It's the only thing that's got the big long trunk. So at least draw the nose. And when you put a little curly tail on the end of the pig, it becomes the pig. And when you put a long neck, it becomes a giraffe. And when you put a bunch of hair around the head, it becomes a lion. At least do the one thing that creature makes. And so, when I see people, because people always go, when we play Pictionary, they want Todd on their team. And it's like, I still only have 25 seconds like everybody else. I just actually draw key things where my wife never does, or you people don't. So at least draw the key thing in it. If you're going to draw a house, put a door on it, because otherwise it looks like a box, right? So I start teaching myself to do superhero comic books. I get obsessed with it. I go to college. I wanted to be a baseball player. I went to college on a Pac-10 baseball scholarship. And I was going to play baseball by day and a comic book artist by night. But the baseball part didn't quite work out. So I ended up working at a shop, sent off my samples. I sent off about 700 samples, got 350 rejections. I kept a bunch of them. Every now and then I'll post those rejections. That I thought were kind of cool because it was people sort of saying, Todd, you're no good, you suck, and then they sign it and I have their autograph, right? And I'm like, wow, if you just sort of hide what they said up above, I got their autograph. So I looked at it as an autograph collection. But eventually, here's what I think happened. Every month I was sending off 20 packages. And here's who I sent it to. I didn't send it to Marvel and DC and all the other companies that existed. I sent it to, and this goes, I don't care if you're a writer, colorist, whatever, I sent it to every editor at Marvel. You know why? Because the editor is who gives you the job. So, you don't send it to the art commission guy at Marvel, you send it to every editor at Marvel. And you send it to every editor at DC. And you send it to every editor at every other company. And that would total right now probably about 50 or 60 editors. And do you know how many editors you need to like your stuff out of 60 to be working as a professional? How many? One. And if you don't believe me, watch the NFL football draft. And if you get drafted by the Dallas Cowboys, and the other team dislike you and would never have drafted you, you are still a professional. You got one team. You only need one editor. So I remember with clear recollection, I finally got my first job. And I go, woohoo, I'm in the business, I'm a pro, it's cool. And because I sent off 20 at a time, I was still getting the rejection from the other editor. So I was now officially working at Marvel and receiving letters from Marvel saying, Dear Todd, your stuff isn't good enough, you'll never work for Marvel. It's true. It is true. So I'm going, cool, and I kept all of those because I thought it was sort of fun. And then, here's the next step once you get in. They would like you to draw really good, but between being really good and being on time, they will take on time. And the reason they will take on time, no, it's true. And the reason they will take on time is because their business is to put out comic books every 30 days. You guys know because you buy them. And there's nothing that frustrates you more when you go to shop, and the book isn't there with the creative people that you wanted. I used to collect, and it bugged me. And when the people were on books that were steady, with the same writer, the same artist, same writer, same artist for a lengthy period of time, even though they weren't great, it still was a body of work, and I sort of got fond of those comic books. So I would tell the young artists and the young writers that look, if their choice is between hiring Michelangelo, and he can only do a page a week, and hiring somebody that's a fraction of the talent, but he can do a page a day, they will hire the other guy. So that piece is what saved me at the beginning. I was fast. Was I good? No, I wasn't good. I was fast. So I was on a book called Coyote for 4 months. I was a professional, and then they phoned me up and they said, Todd, we're canceling the book. Now I'm unemployed. I've been in the business it took me 2 years to get in the door, and now 4 months later I'm unemployed. So what do? I go back to my bag of rejection. And I look at all the nice people who sent me what I thought was constructive criticism. Look at the nasty people, the people who don't care. They took my sample and they threw it in the garbage. Other people actually wrote some kind words to me. So I sent them some more samples, and I said, here's the big difference now. Here's where the dumb luck comes. In 4 months, how much better of an artist do you think I got? Not much. Almost zero better. But I was now able to put in my letter, here's my artwork, I work at Marvel, I'm a pro. Which is a difference than before, I was an amateur, and it was going into the big stack. So now all of a sudden I get a phone call, and here's where somebody's bad fortune because somebody else is good luck. I get a phone call out of the blue, I send it to a good man named Roy Thomas, and the phone call goes like this, Doc, hey, Roy Thomas from DC Comics Books. I just got your package. My artist just died. Guy by the name of Don Newton. You should look his stuff up. He was a brilliant artist. He was a bodybuilder. He had some of the best anatomy in the business at the time. And I think, you're going to laugh, I think it was because he just drew himself. Because he was in muscle magazines. He was in these muscle magazines flexing and holding a pen, and I'm going, whoa, Don Newton, he looks like what he's drawn. But Don Newton was such a health freak. He decided one day he wanted to drink unpasteurized milk, and had an allergic reaction to it. By the time they get him to the hospital, his heart stops, he's dead. Okay, so I've thought about it before, because Don Newton doesn't drink that milk. I'm unemployed. Am I still unemployed to this day? I don't know, right? It's this weird sort of sliding doors moment where you go, who knows? Or it might have taken 5 more years for me to get back in, and maybe the same opportunities wouldn't have been there. But I take the opportunity. Roy gives me a regular book. I do it for 2 or 3 years, and here's what that did for me. It established to the business that I can hold a deadline, and that's 80% of the fight. If they like your artwork, woo, that's bonus. So now they're going, wow, the kid can do work. So I did it for about 2 or 3 years, and then finally I left DC, and I walking out the door, I said, hey, you know what, I'll come back. I'd like, the character I think is cool with Batman. So if you ever get into Batman stuff, give me a phone call. But I've got to go over and check to see if anybody will give me work other than Roy Thomas, because he's the only guy who's employing me. I go over to Marvel. They were in this weird, funky part of their business where I thought that their artwork was kind of bland, because they had an editor-in-chief named Jim Shooter, and I don't know if some of you older guys know Jim Shooter. And the editors were living in fear of Jim Shooter, and they go, Jim won't let you do this, he won't let you do this, he won't let you do this, and it was impossible for me to believe that that's what Jim Shooter was saying. But again, I was a young kid, and I was pushing, I was going to push back too much. So I go over to Marvel, they give me the first book, and they say, okay, we're going to give you this trial, this book called Spitfire, something, I don't even remember what it's called. And they go, but sadly, Todd, you've only got 10 days. Usually you got 30 days. So they were testing it. We got 10 days. I don't know if you can get it done. I gave it to them in 6. Now, was it the best work I ever did? Obviously not. But what was impressive to them was that I got it done. You want it great or do you want it Tuesday? They wanted it Tuesday, and they went, wow. So all of a sudden the work came. They give me the Hulk. Right? Now all of a sudden you're starting to actually go up the ladder, because you say you're doing the Hulk, which is different than saying you're doing Spitfire and the Crossfire, whatever the book was, and then I was doing Coyote or whatever, even Infinity Inc. But you say you're doing Hulk, your mom's heard of the Hulk, right? So now all of a sudden, instead of you being that sort of, mentally arrested son of theirs that was doing comic books, you're going, you're doing the Hulk. You're like, oh, I've heard of the Hulk. That must be legit now. So now you become not so black of the sheep in the family. You become kind of gray for them at that point. So I start doing the Hulk, and then I start getting faster and faster and faster. And then I go, hey, I can do these books. So the editor at that time on the Hulk, a guy named Bob Harris, says, hey, I got another book for you. It's called G.I. Joe. You want to do G.I. Joe? And I went, cool, G.I. Joe, that's cool. Now, it always struck me as odd. I'm Canadian. I was born in Calgary, Alberta, which is up above Montana. And this time I was living in Vancouver, BC, which is on the west coast of Canada. And I always thought it was weird. I was drawing this book called G.I. Joe, Real American Hero, done by a Canadian in Canada, right? I just had confused. But there wasn't the internet. You guys didn't know it, right? You guys thought it was like a guy from Texas who was wearing a flag shirt every day, right? So I thought, no, it's me, the Canuck, right? The pacifist. So I did it. I did one issue on that book, and it was a fight. It was a fight every day. I started doing the second issue. I redraw. It was a fight with the editor. Here's why. I'll never forget. The editor, or not the editor, the writer. He said, Todd, you got to redraw. And here's why. His attitude was, Todd, you have to assume that the reader is an Aboriginal bushman coming out of the Serengeti and he's never read a comic book before. So you have to show everything. You have to dumb it down that much. I said, I'm giving my readers a break. So I'm going, and I assume they'd actually watch TV and movies and actually read a few comic books. I don't think we have to dumb it down that much. But it got to be such a fiasco that I remember I was drawing some pages, I get the phone call, and they phone me, and they said, Todd, we're going to have to fire you off G.I. Joe. And it was, although I wasn't impressed that I got fired, it was the only time I've been fired, that I went, woo, because that 1 month on that book was just torture. And I remember for some reason looking at the clock going, well, 12:07, okay, I guess I'm unemployed. I have to try and find another book. 8 minutes later, no lie. Bring Todd McFarlane. Hey, Dick. He's the head of DC Comic Book. And remember when you last week said you wanted to do some Batman? I just had somebody quit in a raid issue number 1 of Batman Year 2. But I need an answer by tomorrow. Generally, you got time to finish Batman Year 2? Cool. I'll think about it. I'll get back to you tomorrow. And I'm going, no, I got off this book that was torture to me, unemployed for 8 minutes. I got Batman. My wife was making me lunch. I didn't even have to tell her I got fired and hired in that moment. I was like, she's going, how things going? Good, I'm still working. And why you asking? So then I was doing Hulk and I was doing Batman. The third issue, which was the fourth of this miniseries called Batman Year 2, I finally blow a gasket, and I just go, I can't take it anymore. I've got to eat my own stuff. At that point, they were putting like a different inker on me every issue, and it was guys that were complete brush guys, and I had this new modern look, I thought, and I just didn't think it was, on their own they were brilliant, but I just thought it was a little bit of oil and vinegar. So I phone up the editor and I go, look, I know you're going to hate me, and you've already had one guy quit, but I've got to ink this last issue. I've never inked. I don't know how to ink, but I've got to ink the last issue, and otherwise I got to quit. And I put him in a tough spot, and he couldn't really do that. And he went, all right, you can ink the book. And so, in a roundabout way, the guy that I fought with on G.I. Joe, I sort of owe him my inking chops. Because if I didn't get to fight with him, that led me to getting fired, that led me to be able to do Batman, that led me to be able to ink, I would never be Spider-Man. So, and this guy sort of made my career. That guy that I didn't like that much on G.I. Joe. So next time I see him, I'm going to tip my hat to him. But I started doing the penciling and inking on it, and then once that was over, I was back down to one book. Because I was doing Batman, trying to do the Hulk G.I. Joe or Hulk Batman. And then it was going away, so I was looking for another book. And now, all the editors at Marvel were saying, Todd, it's cool, you're looking for another book, whatever you do, just don't go into the Spider-Man office, right? You don't want to go there for free fall, don't want to go there, right? Now, here's what you do not ever do to an immature person is tell them they can't do something or they got to be home by 11, right? And if you're not home by 11, something's going to happen.